Good evening, Rams. I'm JJ McKinney.
I'm Kate Sherman.
And I'm Bella Walser. In the past 2 weeks, there has been a wave of student activism against the war in Gaza on college campuses. This wave started with the initial arrest of about 100 protests at Columbia University.
Since then, more than 1,200 protesters have been taken into police custody on U.S. campuses, with protests growing across the country. Some of these universities have been met with police backlash, and at some universities, police and university administration are dealing with the protests by arresting students, removing encampments, and giving academic consequences.
This week, Colorado State started joining in on these national protests. CSU Students for Justice in Palestine has been organizing nonviolent protests and has asked the university for a list of demands. These demands include financial divestment, asking the university to divest from certain companies that profit from or support the conflict, academic boycott, asking CSU to cut ties with Israeli universities and weapons manufacturers, ending the silence, and asking CSU to issue a public statement advocating for the ceasefire. And lastly, supporting students' First Amendment right by asking CSU to respect their right to a nonviolent protest.
Colorado State's protest on Monday was organized to release this demand letter to the CSU administration. The nonviolent protest started on the LSC Plaza, where students gathered around to listen to the demand letter.
Remember, in light of the devastating human rights violations occurring in Palestine and now imminent invasion of Rafah, where over 1.4 million Palestinians seek shelter in makeshift camps on the brink of starvation, we insist Colorado State University's Office of the President, Board of Governors, trustees, and directors takes a firm stance by aligning its institutional practices with its proclaimed democratic values. Therefore, failure to address these demands will inevitably lead to an increase in nonviolent student protest on campus. Our actions will reflect our commitment to justice and the moral imperatives our faculty have instilled and the university claims to uphold.
The rallying speeches led to hundreds of students marching to the administration building, where they continued their protest. 3 representatives then peacefully hand-delivered the letter of demands to Amy Parsons' office.
The letter also included a response deadline, saying that failure to respond will be understood as a dismissal of the demands. Ella Smith, a CSU student and a member of the Society for Justice of Palestine, led the protesters as they marched on campus.
This is an international issue. We really wanted to focus our energy here on CSU today. We wanted to focus on CSU's not only ties to Israeli military, but also CSU's silence, which is complicity. CSU has not made a statement yet on the ongoing genocide in Gaza, on the scholasticide, which is the destruction of all schools, all universities in Gaza. We believe that this is completely abhorrent. We think that CSU has blood on its hands, and by proximity, all CSU students have blood on their hands, and we think that's completely unacceptable. Office of the President accepted our letter with grace, which was really wonderful. People like me who have been privileged our whole lives, it is our duty to put our bodies, our lives on the line for the Palestinian people. It is our duty to engage in this work. And I'm really hoping that the Palestinian people see that they are not alone in this struggle.
To respond to this letter of demands, CSU's president, Amy Parsons, released a statement by the given deadline, saying, "Universities across the country are experiencing demonstrations and protests which have at times resulted in major disruptions to safety and community functioning. That has not been the experience here at CSU."
We have had multiple examples throughout the year of successful demonstrations and protests in which organizers and staff worked together to ensure that individuals could safely exercise their First Amendment rights.
I have met with and am meeting this week with various student groups to hear their concerns and to encourage respectful dialogue on a wide range of complex and challenging issues. I'm so grateful for our RAM community as we navigate these challenging times. SJP responded by stating President Parsons agreed to meet with SJP and the Zionists to find common ground. Since this is not what we had asked for, we made no agreements. We feel as though we are being railroaded into a dialogue as a tool of distraction. There is no common ground in genocide. We stand by our demands and will not stop until they are met.
Following the response, CSU students are continuing to protest to have their demands met by participating in a sit-in. Students are spending the day on campus, setting up tents on the LSE Plaza, but are leaving by 7 p.m. each day to follow university rules. SJP says they will be continuing their peaceful protest on campus throughout finals week.
Yesterday, counter-protesters also took the opportunity to voice their opinions on the conflict during the 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. university curfew. Here's what they had to say.
Before October 7th happened, Israelis were protesting daily for the government to change, and a lot of people don't realize that. A lot of Israelis don't like what's happening. They don't agree with the government. They try and minimize the casualties, and we're not saying they do it well, but it's the fact that they're trying. If Hamas puts down their weapons, everyone is safe and Israel gets to continue existing. If Israel puts down their weapons, we don't exist anymore.
Exactly.
Jews die. War is war, war is hell. You never know when it's going to end. As someone who doesn't really have any connection to Israel aside from the part that I'm Jewish, I want there to be a coalition of peace and just unity between Palestinians and Israelis, because both we're cousins, we're all siblings. It's beautiful when we can all get together and just have this beautiful world of peace and just happiness.
With Colorado State being just one of the many college campuses taking part in this protest, other Colorado universities are also seeing the same result.
Last week, the University of Colorado at Aurora campus started an encampment as a way to protest their demands.
What do we do? Stand up, fight back! When the left of mosque is under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back!
So I'll start with the positives. Like, the positives has just been the level of organization, the groups that have all come together and organized. As soon as someone comes for the first time to the encampment, the first thing I tell them is, have you seen the village? That's what I'm calling it. I don't think that's its name. But we've got a medical tent, we've got a supplies tent, we've got a food tent, we've got a hot water and coffee area. Like, it's very organized, it's very squared away, which I think is really good, right? Because again, we want to do this, but we want to do it safely. We've got counter protesters here trying to distract, trying to make this a confliction zone. Right now it's harmonious. If you look around, there's dogs, there's baby strollers, there's kids, bikes. Like, it is like a farmer's market, right? It's a farmer's market. It's a good vibe. People come have fun in solidarity. Divestment is the most important thing because that's material impact, right? Like, we've seen early on in this struggle, a lot of the movements were ceasefire bills and things like that. And while those are good, if you get that ceasefire bill passed, it doesn't really change anything for the people in Palestine.
We've had a campaign going on since November, trying to get the school to divest from Israel. We've been doing a series of protests, escalating higher and higher and higher. And then we saw the call for universities across the United States to set up encampments, specifically by National Students for a Democratic Society, which we are a chapter of. And started off by Columbia University Students for Justice in Palestine. So we wanted to join in on that and create our own popular University of Gaza. I not only have had to see the videos and stuff of the genocide that's been happening in Palestine, but I saw firsthand my fellow student organizers who I've been organizing for months with get attacked by this campus's administration, intentionally calling violence upon them. This is what we're breaking is not like a law, but a campus policy that they're willingly enforcing. We're seeing students rise up to injustice like we did in Vietnam, like we did in the South Africa, the anti-apartheid South Africa movement. So, students are once again seeing the injustice that's happening, recognizing who is standing by the injustice, and understanding that we're fighting the popular fight. We're fighting the just fight. So that's honestly where I get my strength from. Seeing the protesters at Humboldt University push the police officers back. That strength comes from being on the right side of history. So I'm happy to be able to join in on the cause and help to move us to a more progressive world.
Aurora campus is just one of the universities that has been met with police backlash, with more than 40 students being arrested. However, the university is saying it is now trying to take a more diplomatic approach by meeting with the protest group.
Earlier today, the Aurora Executive Council released a statement saying a donor will give $15,000 to the Red Cross in the group's name. But that is only if the protesters agree to take the encampment down by 5 p.m. today. The protesters did not agree to this, as the encampment is still standing. Now, Aurora campus is connected to universities like Columbia, University of Texas Austin, and UCLA due to the shared experience of arrests taking place.
As campuses continue their pro-Palestinian demonstrations nationwide, authorities and university administrations continue to figure out how to respond to the protest.
This story is still developing. While we recognize that this is our last week of shows for this semester, we will continue to update you on the story through social media. Thank you so much for watching.
Stay tuned for our final goodbye show starting in 10 minutes.
Until next fall, have a good night, Rams.